Good afternoon and welcome to the first ever Wayne County Public Library Staff Picks video. My name is Arlene.
My name is Kimberly.
Hi, I'm Miriam.
And we're going to discuss some of our favorite books and videos with you today, or share them with you. The first one I'm going to talk about is Boys in the Boat. Now, many people know the story of Jesse Owens at the 1936 Olympics. Not that many people know about the eight-oar rowing team that went to the Olympics in '36. This is a fabulous book. They were a group of just average young men who worked very hard and were able to overcome many obstacles in order to find themselves at the Berlin Olympics. The book, while you know how it's going to end, it still draws you in. It still keeps you interested. And it's very full of details. Don't let that bog you down. It just shows the complexity of the sport. It centers around Joe Rance, who was one of the oarsmen, and it goes through his childhood and the difficulty he had during the Depression, and just showed that overcoming obstacles, and that we can all overcome the obstacles that we have in our lives. At the end of the book, I found myself cheering out loud for the rowing team, and I just really recommend this book. It's a nonfiction book. It's a true story, and I would just highly recommend this for sports fans, history fans, and people who just want to read about overcoming obstacles.
My first book is called Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. This is a wonderful dystopian book. If you need a good dystopian and you are looking for a little romance and a little bit of adventure, this book is wonderful. It has a great kick-butt heroine if you're into strong women. This is a great book to read. It takes place in a kingdom called Nortia that's at war with the kingdom called the Lakelands. And the character that I love so much, her name is Mare, and she is a red. There are two different kinds of people in this world. There are the Reds, and they are people with no powers, and they serve people called the Silvers. And the Silvers have different types of powers. Well, Mare goes to rob someone because her family is very poor. And it turns out that the person that she goes to rob is the prince. And he gets her a job at the palace. Well, she ends up working at the palace and ends up involved in something called the Queen's Right, which she ends up showing powers, and she never should have had any powers because she's a red, so they don't know what to do with her. She ends up engaged to the second prince, whose name is Maven, and then she ends up involved in something called the Scarlet Guard, which are the Reds that are against the Silvers because the Silvers are sending the Reds out to fight the war, and the Reds are dying right and left. So what is going to happen? Well, you'll have to read Red Queen to find out what happens from there.
It's really good. Okay, so my first movie in my nice tall stack is Hell or High Water, and it stars Jeff Bridges and Chris Pine, the beautiful Chris Pine, and it's about two brothers who start robbing banks when they find out that their house is going to be foreclosed by the end of the week. And so they start robbing the bank that's foreclosing their house, and the Texas Ranger, Jeff Bridges, is hot on their trail. So they have to make it to the end of the week and get all the money before this Texas Ranger brings them down. And my second one is a comedy. It stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart's so funny. And so these two went to high school together, and if you can believe it, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was actually the chubby, dorky guy, who only friend was Kevin Hart, who was actually the most likely to succeed, the coolest guy in school. And so now it's 20 years later, and right before their high school reunion, they are about to go to their high school reunion. And they meet up again, only for Calvin Hart to find out that The Rock character is now in the CIA, and he gets forced into this big adventure where the Rock is being framed by his old partner. So, some exciting stuff in this one. Lots of laughs.
Okay. The second book that I'm going to cover is again another nonfiction book. It is The Hands-On Home. It's a book that we used in our cookbook club a couple months ago, and it's a cookbook, but it's more than a cookbook. It's a must-read for anyone wanting to do a more natural, healthier way of life. It's separated into sections. It's a seasonal guide to cooking, preserving, and natural homekeeping. So it's broken down into 5 sections. There's the year-round section, there's spring, summer, fall, and winter. And then each section is broken down into cooking, preserving, home care, and personal care. And what it does is each season, it talks about things that, foods that are available, that you can then cook, so it has recipes. Things that you might be wanting to clean at that particular season. For example, in summer, it talks about deck cleaner. And then also home health, personal care, things that you would be wanting to do during that season. The cooking and preserving sections contain recipes that include ingredients that are available during that season. And I just think this would be a really good one for, like I said, anyone who's wanting to get back to a more natural way of doing things and not buying chemicals and things like that, using things that you have at home. So I would recommend it.
My second book is called Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. This is a wonderful time travel that also features a wonderful kick-butt heroine. I'm on a theme today, of course. The young lady in this book, her name is Etna Spencer, and she is a violin prodigy. Her first concert, she goes to play and it's interrupted by a noise. She runs off the stage into the back room, finds that there is this light and vibration in the hallway, goes running into it, gets pushed into it by somebody, some strange girl that she's never seen before. The next thing she knows, she's in 1776 on a boat in the ocean where she meets this privateer whose name is Nicholas. And the next thing she knows, he is taking her to meet this older man. And this older man has her mother, and he tells her that unless Edna finds this astrolabe which controls these passages that they can go through for time, to travel from time period to time period, unless she brings back this astrolabe, he is going to kill her mother. So will she find the astrolabe in time? Read Passenger to find out.
Okay, my last film is Hidden Figures, which stars 3 very awesome Black women who worked for NASA in the 1960s. They were a major part of getting astronaut John Glenn up into orbit, and they also helped with Apollo 11 and Apollo 13, and they are amazing and great. And so if you're interested in a nice family film about 3 amazing women, then you should watch Hidden Figures.
Thank you for joining us today. We encourage you to come to the library and get your tickets. We have a couple upcoming authors. In October, we have authors coming. Debbie McComber is coming and Jessica Fellows is coming. So we encourage you to come and get your tickets for their talks. Thank you.